Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. You may have noticed that I did not upload a haul video yet this year, and that was on purpose. I recently decided to cut back a little on my spending, so for the month of January, I didn't buy much manga at all. Crazy, I know. And while I say that I'm trying to cut back on spending, my birthday was actually in February, so for last month at least, treating myself overtook the urge to save money. This haul is especially important to me because a bunch of the manga I'm going to show you are actually gifts. A few of the people in my life either gifted me manga or gave me gift cards with which I bought manga. I can't properly explain how I feel, but I'm just grateful that I have people in my life who know about my hobby and encourage it in their own way. And before I get too sappy, let's talk about what I got for my birthday. Up first, I have all of my English manga, starting off with Volume 1 of Berserk. One of my pals has been trying to get me to read this for I think months now, but I didn't really prioritize it. Anyway, of course that friend bought this for me, so I could no longer push this off. I just finished reading this earlier, and while this definitely isn't the type of manga I usually gravitate towards, I liked this first volume more than I thought I would. I wasn't too interested in the story at the beginning, but as I read on, I really got sucked in. Guts, for example, seems like a really cool and complicated main character, and I want to know more about him. I also like Puck, and I feel like his reactions to everything were pretty much how I'd react if I found myself mixed up in all this. I'm not sure when I'll pick up more volumes, but I'm intrigued enough to read on later. Next, I have the continuation of Orange Future. It's kind of like a sequel, but it's mainly about Suwa and his thoughts on everything that happened. And a large chunk of this is about what happened to Suwa in the original timeline of the story, so before the letters. And if you've read Orange, you probably know what I mean. Overall, I thought this was a good companion to Orange and does justice to the series. It also answers some questions you may have had while reading the previous volumes. And while I did like that this was in Sua's point of view, for the pre-letters reality, I would have also liked to hear Naho's thoughts as well. It seems like there's a 7th volume in the making, although it hasn't been released yet, I'm still excited nonetheless. Next, I have Volume 1 of Your Name. I don't have too much to say about this. I think I'm just on a mission to consume as much Your Name material as possible. Even though the manga obviously lacks the visuals of the movie, it's still really well drawn. I think this might be a fun read if you're on the go and want to experience Your Name, or if you just prefer reading manga over watching movies. Anyway, I think the manga flows at a similar pace to the movie. There's a few additional bits of dialogue and thought bubbles here and there, but it's pretty much the same. And I'm definitely going to pick up the 2nd and 3rd volumes soon. Next, I have an all-in-one also by Shinkai, Voices of a Distant Star. And while I am a fan of his, I mainly picked this up because I'm also a fan of Sahara's artwork. There's just something so soothing about it. This manga is a little interesting in that it tries to combine sci-fi with slice of life. It's about these two friends trying to stay in touch with each other. One friend is recruited to be part of a space army while the other stays on Earth. I'm not sure how to describe it other than by saying it's very Shinkai-esque. More so than the plot, or even the characters, the core of the story is longing and loneliness, basically the feels. I thought it was a good read, and if you're a fan of Shinkai or into slow burns and really mellow stories, this might be worth checking out. I'll probably try to watch the movie myself soon. I'm super excited about this next volume, Volume 1 of Natsume's Book of Friends. The Natsume anime adaptation has been in my top 3 anime for a long time now, and since I'm building a manga collection, I thought it'd be worth to check out the manga as well. And honestly, both versions are similar. At least from this first volume, the anime is a very faithful adaptation of all the emotions and details in the manga, and I do think the anime wins by a little bit because it benefits from a superb soundtrack, which I think is important to the story and the genre. I could rant all day about this series, but I'd recommend Natsume's Book of Friends to pretty much anyone who enjoys slice of life or episodic anime. The series is very grounded in relationships between people and yokai, enjoying life, learning to rely on other people, and I think anyone could learn from its lessons. Up next, I have a series that needs no introduction, Volume 1 of My Hero Academia. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll already know that I've had Volume 10 for a while now, but I finally decided to pick up the rest of the series. I have nothing new to say about it. It's still a great shonen, a great series in general, and one of my favorite things to read. I actually also just started watching the anime, and I'm not sure which version I prefer. They're both pretty awesome. Next, I have Noragami Stray Stories, which is basically a compilation of short stories featuring the entire cast. I think a few of these were animated as OVAs, but there are also some new stories here. So, if you're a fan of the Noragami manga but are sad because of the hiatus, I think this would be a fun pickup because it's like experiencing some of the fun of Noragami again for the first time, and who wouldn't want that? I was honestly so happy reading this. I feel like I'll treasure this volume forever because of that. And for the last of my English manga, and probably my favorite pickup for the month, I have Volume 1 of Silver Spoon. I think like some, when I heard about the anime, I was kind of turned off by the idea of a series about agriculture. Honestly, I didn't care. But someone close to me, someone who didn't even watch anime regularly, swore by it. I felt like I had to give it a shot, and I'm so glad I did. This is such a heartwarming and fun story, yes about agriculture, but also about growing up, finding one's dreams, and adapting to new situations. It's well crafted and funny, and I actually ended up caring a lot more about the food I ate after watching it. I'm so glad we get to finally enjoy the manga, and it's just as dynamic and fun as the anime. For the rest of this video, I'll be sharing my Japanese pickups, starting with volumes 1 to 3 of Aoharu Ride. Sakisaka is one of my favorite shoujo mangaka. I think she's always been a good writer, but she's also consistently improving and writing more compelling series over time. Aoharu Ride is probably my least favorite of her 3 major shoujo, but even with that in mind, it's still a solid 8 if that gives you an idea of how great she is. What I like about this is that even though there's not a unique premise, and even though it has a ton of shoujo cliches, there's something very real and down to earth about these characters and this story. And I feel like in general, she's pretty successful at creating stories with depth and meaning, which is always a plus. I also have a few volumes of her newest series, Omoi Omaware Furi Furare. I think the series has pretty much everything a shoujo fan is looking for. There's a meek, shy female lead, but if you can't relate to her, there's also a very headstrong and pragmatic lead. There's a well-meaning playboy, but if he's not your type, there's also a very sweet and clumsy guy too. Yep, it's a love square. You know, I'm not even really sure why I love this manga so much. All I know is that I do. I can't stop reading and rereading it. Each of these characters is trying to grow in their own ways, and it's heartwarming seeing them do so. I also like that it's not purely about romance. It's about friendship and being the best and most authentic version of yourself. It might seem like there's a lot happening, but I think Sakisaka balances the amount of time each character gets pretty well. And if you're wondering why I have volume 7, it's just because I really like the content in this volume as well as the cover, so I just wanted it right away. Next, I have volumes 1 to 3 of Honey Lemon Soda, which is an incredibly sweet manga. In shoujo, we often see instances of the meek female lead who wants to change herself and become stronger. And while one might think that this manga is just a typical shoujo because of that premise, it's really not. The female lead here is so easy to root for, empathize with, and relate to, and she really does try her best. She stands out from the typical lead in that she's headstrong and confident in her choices, and genuinely wants to improve for her own sake. And I think because the lead is kind of different, the path the manga takes is also pretty refreshing and sort of deviates from what one would expect from a typical shoujo manga. Next, I have volume 3 of Koisuru Harinezumi. If you're into shoujo, you're probably already familiar with the premise of the sweet and somewhat ditzy girl who meets the cold and aloof male lead, but finds out he's actually a sweetheart. And if you like that premise, this is definitely the manga for you. It's cute and funny, and the characters are still pretty interesting and unique. It's not revolutionary, but it does take a new spin on that premise, and it's overall a fun read if you're in the mood for shoujo. Next, I have volume 2 of Tsubasa to Hotaru, which is a fun, sporty shoujo romance. While I do enjoy this manga, I'm not really in a rush to pick up more, and I think I realized that after buying this volume. I just wasn't super excited about it, which sounds so sad. I do think it's still a good pick if you're into shoujo but want something a little extra. I like that much of the setting revolves around basketball, and the main character is also adorable and very easy to love. Next, I have volume 1 of Reborn. This is actually a new 2-in-1 that I believe was released last year. I absolutely love the design of the cover. Reborn has always had nice covers, but this new edition has especially pretty ones. Reborn is a pretty nostalgic series for me. It was one of the first shonen I ever followed and completed, and even now, I still think it's a fun and enjoyable series if you enjoy shonen. The optimist in me hopes that one day Reborn will be re-released, but I know that's a long shot. Surprise, surprise, somehow I have more Noragami in this haul. I really had no reason to buy this, but I did anyway because I found it at a used bookstore for around $2. I also wanted more Japanese reading material, and I figured what better thing to read than a manga I already love, right? Ooh, what a great series. Space Brothers, as you may have guessed by the title, is about the journey of the main character to become an astronaut and catch up to his little brother. There are so many good points to this series. One thing I love about it is just how raw and realistic these characters are. The relationship between the brothers is beautiful and gripping, but pretty much every character in this series is relatable and has some depth to them. And on top of all that, with the attention to detail and the amount of research the author must have done, I've also just learned a lot about astronauts and outer space and the like. In short, it's great. I think it's being released digitally by Kodansha in case you wanted to check the manga out. Next I have Billy Bat by Urasawa. To be honest, I bought this without any idea of the premise. I just knew I wanted to try more of Urasawa's manga. And I've got to say, this is an absolutely thrilling work. The story follows a Japanese-American comic book artist who finds out that his main character, Billy Bat, may have been copied from someone's work in Japan, and he sets out to right his wrong. Like Urasawa's other works, I thought this first volume was suspenseful, somewhat creepy, and it had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I also like the mingling of comic books and manga in the actual plot, and I feel like it's even cooler when you remember that the protagonist is Japanese-American. Next, I have another Urasawa work, Volume 1 of Pluto. I don't remember the exact name of this release, but as you can see, it's a lot bigger than most manga. I especially love this cutout cover. If you're not familiar with Pluto, it's a manga based on an arc from Astro Boy. I became a fan of Urasawa after reading 20th Century Boys, but I think Pluto might already be my favorite manga of his. It's suspenseful, and once again, I got sucked in right away. Hopefully I can find more of these oversized editions because they're just beautiful, and they also have extras at the end like interviews with Urasawa and Tezuka's son. I'll hopefully also add the English volumes to my collection soon. And last but certainly not least, I have something new here, a manga magazine. This is the March issue of Betsuma, which is a monthly shoujo magazine, and packaged with it was a sampler of other shoujo, which I thought was kind of cool. Not gonna lie, I mainly got this because the cover features another shoujo manga I adore, Suteki Nakarashi. I also thought it'd be fun to check out a magazine every once in a while. A little throwback to the old school physical Shonen Jump and Shoujo weekdays, if you will. I'll probably pick up other random issues from other magazines at some point just to browse through and find new series to read. And that brings us to the end of this haul. I hope you enjoyed it. As part of my new goal to save money, I'm going to try to not buy any manga for the month of March. That might seem a little excessive, but I just really want to see if I can pull it off. I hope you all picked up and read some great manga this year, and I'll see you in my next video.